Hello, folks, and welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Mike Hudson, along with my co-host Greg Trainer. Man, we got a great opportunity today to talk to a buddy of mine, doing some great things here in South Carolina and just nationally. Really cool guy. Greg, man, how are you doing in PA, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. The weather's finally turned around. We're getting some warm days, getting ready to get outside a lot more, and tired of hibernating over winter, getting ready for spring turkey here in another month or so. So, loving life, brother, loving life.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna have to get this bipolar weather, dude. It keeps on going from cold to hot, and the beginning of the week we were chilly, and today I think it's gonna be like 78.
Man,
Yeah.
it's 70 something here, and I'm wearing short sleeves for the first time in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to take it as long as Mother Nature will give it to us.
100%. Kevin, man, how are you doing down there, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Trying to survive the pollen storm of 26 so far. I'm telling you, we're surrounded by pine trees too. So I mean, it's just everywhere around here.
Everything is yellow, man, but I think that's
Yep.
just the color of nature in South Carolina
Yep.
anymore.
It is. Yep. So that's the state color right now for
Right.
springtime.
We just wait on a little bit of rain to kind of wash it out.
Uh-huh. Yep. You're right.
But for the folks that don't know you, I know this is my buddy Kevin Brewington. If you will, can you tell a little bit about who you are and how you ended up with a disability, if you will?
Yeah. So like I said, my name's Kevin Brewington. I live down in Union County, South Carolina. Not to be confused with the North Carolina version. But so I joined the military not long after high school back in 2010, which seems ages ago now you say it out loud.
Right.
So I went to basic training. I joined the infantry as my MOS. Went to the Army. So I went, did my training, and then got stationed out in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is one extreme to another. Going from 100 degrees to negative 50 degrees, it seems like. So did some training in Alaska while I was there. Knew was going to be deployed to Afghanistan, not to following spring. So I stayed in Alaska about 8 months or so, and then in 2011, spring 2011, I was sent to Afghanistan for uh, the war on global war on terror. So 2011, I was deployed, and then in September, 6 months later, actually stepped on an IED, a Taliban controlled detonated IED. Ended up losing both legs. Have a Technically it's called a salvage right arm. They were able to save it and uh, kind of piece it together, like I guess kind of like you would a car, make it functional, which they did a great job on. But ended up getting injured, um, dying once on the flight. My guys did an amazing job saving me. Went from the battlefield to Germany, got me stabilized, and then went from Germany to Walter Reed Bethesda, our national military hospital. Was there for about a year and a half or so, doing rehabs and getting processed of getting out of the military and retiring permanently. So after after that, came back home and started the life of trying to figure out my new body, my new way of living. So I think the easiest and best thing for situations like that is the support system. And at that time, I had a girlfriend, and now she's been my wife going on 15 years. So it everything works out for a reason. You just gotta find and stay positive, and find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Man, Kevin, thank you so much for all you've done for our country and the sacrifices you've
Yeah,
made. And it's kind of
appreciate
fitting that you're a Red Sox fan. It's opening day of baseball season,
Yeah,
and
man.
it. Yep, yep,
you and I were talking a little bit about accessibility in Boston and Fenway and things.
hmm
And it's nice to see another Red Sox fan on the podcast today.
yep,
So I
yep,
appreciate you.
yes, sir. Yep.
It's one of those unique things, man. Kevin, I've known you for a little while now, and your story is kind of unique, but it's out there, and
hmm
there's a lot
Yeah.
of videos and stuff of you in flight, and all of that that goes along with your injury and whatnot. But
Yes,
It's
sir.
funny how the military always comes up with some terminology, and I didn't realize they called it a salvaged arm.
Yep. Yep. Same thing as you do with a car. You got a salvage title, and
Right,
some people keep that car and piece it together and make it
right,
work. And some people
right.
junk it.
Well, brother, man, I'm glad you're here to share your story, man, and you know I truly appreciate all you do. Um,
Yep.
but also too, so one of the things that I love about what you're into, dude, is you know you got a young family, you got
Mhm.
these young girls, and what better way to do it than to get involved with their education and ways to
Yep.
make change. Um,
Yeah.
one of the things Greg and I talk about all the time is if we don't get involved, then all we are is giving somebody a suggestion.
Hmm.
And you know, if we're not on the board that can actually make change, all we're doing is outside suggestions. So, how did you get onto the county school board, and what do you see as the benefit of what you guys have been up to?
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, unfortunately, we had a former member. He was also a military service member, but he passed away, and so that we had to, ended up having to have a special election, and I had some people reach out because he was in the way our county is. We do it by districts. Each person has a district or whatever,
Right.
and I had some people reach out and wanted me to run. So I ended up running, winning my election, and then I just won again last year to start my full term, which is a 4-year term. So yeah, I just had besides people asking me to run, I got kids in the school system, and we got a bunch of friends. It's just pretty small and close knit community. So I kind of know a bunch of teachers. Some former of my teachers, they're still teaching. So it's to me, it found a way to have them to have an avenue of, hey, what's working, what's not working. And then for us on the parent side, as me and my wife Hannah, we're we're seeing the stuff that they get curriculum wise, testing wise, and then I know, hey, some of the stuff is good, some of the stuff isn't practical in the real world.
Right.
And then I can, I correlate it also with the teachers. How's the teachers feeling? How's our admin feeling about some of these curriculums? But I mean, for the majority, yeah, I do have an opinion on the curriculum and stuff, but for the most part, it's on the board, it's more like running a business. I mean, it's budgeting stuff, it's making sure the monies go to where the monies are supposed to be and it's spent the way it's supposed to be. And is we have a great superintendent here, so we put a lot of leadway in his hands, and
Right.
so he handles the majority of everything. But some things we have to just vote on, and things that we have to do. But I'm more correlated with a business versus an actual school setting, just because of how it lays out for us. We vote majority stuff, but it's more money stuff than it is anything else, honestly.
Mm.
Kevin, you bring so much real world experience and a unique perspective to the
Yeah.
school board, and that has to be valuable to your local community.
Mm.
As a person with a disability, as a veteran, you have a unique viewpoint on things, and they're lucky to have you.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
glad to hear that you ran and that you won your election and in your term, and I know the people in your town are benefiting from your experiences.
Yeah, and you know, obviously everybody around here knows my story, and they were unbelievably supportive when things did happen back in 2011, and so forth, of supporting me and helping us out as much as they can. So that helps too, as people feel comfortable reaching out to me. And on the end of, after, I'm sure we get into it, the nonprofit world, I've been around the world, been around the country more than I have the world, but I've been able to see different viewpoints outside of a small town, small
Right.
town mindset, so to speak. So I've seen the way, people handle things different, the way things are run different, the way people run business different, the way, it just gives you a better perspective and things that you can do better. And to me, it just broadens the horizons, when you come in with knowledge instead of just having one lane to focus on. It just makes it a whole lot better for everybody involved.
That's
Right.
well said.
Give it
Yeah,
a better overall educated opinion.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I know you got your hands in a lot of things, and I want to thank you again for coming on and spending some time with us today.
Yeah,
And I know you just did some stuff with Tunnels for Towers, man. And for a lot of the guys and girls out there that don't know what that organization is, can you tell us a little bit about it and how you got involved?
yeah. So Tunnels of Towers is honestly, it might be top three biggest nonprofits in the country right now, especially the military and first responder wise. The initial thing with Tunnels of Towers was Steven Siller. He was a firefighter during 9/11 attack. He got trapped on the other side of the Brooklyn Bridge, so he just grabbed his gear out of the back of his truck and just hustled it to the towers. Ended up being his fate in those towers, unfortunately, along with almost 3,000 other people. But
Yeah.
so after that, they started a nonprofit. His family did to start helping the firefighters involved and the first responders involved. At the time, ones that were injured or breathing problems, and they started remodeling houses. And then it just started growing and growing, and then they got into the military space of that's they were a lot of injuries in Iraq and stuff, but like the time that I was in Afghanistan, that 10, 11, 12 era,
Yeah.
that was it was a lot of guys going down with amputations and disfigurements and stuff. So they started really pumping it out then. So they came up with the idea of start doing mortgage free homes. Basically, they just take what we get as I think it's a HAH grant or whatever it is, and
Hmm.
they take that grant and they build you a new home, or if you have a newer home, they'll remodel it, and then they just at the end of the project, they pay your mortgage off, and you're mortgage free for 10 years, or they're mortgage free forever. They put it in a 10-year trust, and then it
Right.
gets turned over to you after that 10 years. That's the way all of them do. But so they do that. They anything for Gold Star families, they'll pay their families' houses off too. But so I got involved with them. I went to a thing with President Trump back in his first term. I went to the White House and I met a guy who knew a guy. He was injured in Afghanistan. I want to say it was IED attack, and it was in a Humvee, and he ended up getting like severely burned and stuff. So I ended up talking to Rick. He lives up north too, and he got me in touch with the board people, the people that needed to approve me. So I talked to those people and ended up getting approved. So what we did was our house at the time was probably 5 years old, and so we didn't want a new house. So what they did, they came in, remodeled some stuff, put some easier accessibility stuff in, redid some shower configurement stuff. So they did that, and then like I said, at the end of the project, they paid our mortgage off. So that was awesome. Um, then afterwards, they every year they do a 5K run in that same
Hmm.
area. You start where Stephen was on the other side, the Brooklyn tunnel, and then you go all the way to the where the towers are or where the memorial is now. And you start there and you end there, and they usually have over 40,000 runners a year
Wow.
in it. Yeah, so I mean it's huge. So after after being involved with them a couple of years, I've kind of become an ambassador with them, uh,
Hmm.
doing some brand. My first one, we did a brand, uh, I guess, cohort with the American, or was it Allegiance Flag Company? They're out of North Charleston. So I go down there and just, be a face, be the face and figure for the Tunnels of Towers and shoot some promo stuff with them. So it was branding stuff like that. But probably one of the greatest things that come out of this, and it was an unfortunate situation. So I volunteer at Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office here in South Carolina. Um, we had a deputy get shot and killed a few years back on a domestic
Yeah.
call. Ended up losing his life. Well, he got killed like a few days after he just found out they were going to have their firstborn child, right after Father's Day. So uh, I kind of worked my connections, and we ended up getting his wife and daughter after she was born. We got them a house built, so doing something like that, that makes it fulfilling. Doing being being involved in a nonprofit, that's well worth it. And since then,
Yeah.
I've talked to we've had we had a shooting here down in Charlotte a couple of years back with some marshals getting killed, and sending their names. And I got a buddy of mine I met with another nonprofit. We just got him approved not too long ago. They're going to be buying and remodeling a house out in San Diego. He was a veteran. He was one of those veterans. He wasn't missing any uh, limbs or nothing, and he didn't feel like he was worthy compared to some other people. And I told him, I said, if I'm giving you a stamp of approval, I mean, you're good, man. Like you deserve it. Don't ever feel like just because you're not missing a leg or arm or whatever it may be, you don't compare. I mean, I see struggles, and I know you for a
Yeah.
short time and good people and got a family, and it takes man, it takes so much stress of not having a mortgage payment or whatever it may be to just worry about your family and other things than just having to worry about money. So that takes a big stress off of it. So doing that's what makes it well worth it is when you're able to use those connections. And even here locally, I've been able to use my connections that I've met nationally for,
Right.
my VA lady here, she's retired now, but they'd reach out to me, say, "Hey, Kevin, you know any nonprofits that can help this veteran, blah, blah, blah," because there's nonprofits here, a nonprofit here, but it's not just veteran oriented, but people like Upstate Warrior Solution here out of up your way, Mike. They're really good
Yeah.
about helping local people. And then on a national level, I'm always able to reach out to Tunnels to Towers and stuff and Travis Mills Foundation if I got to. So they've been really good.
That's amazing work that you're involved with, Kevin,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the tangible results for veterans
Mhm.
and first responders and their families. As you said, that takes a lot of stress off of the entire family and
Yep.
enables healing and rehabilitation. And that's just amazing work. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And you brought up so many points there, Kevin, is that, we got a lot of guys and girls that, the military is really good about making you self-sufficient, never asking for help. And, you pick up, push on, and, embrace the suck and keep doing this and that. And when these guys and girls get broke down
Yep.
enough where they're just out, hey, I need help. A lot of times VA services are either good, bad, or, you get people that are going to give you their opinion one way or the other. And when these guys break down enough and just say, I need help,
Yep.
a lot of times they're kind of turned away. Or we got guys like you that jump in, no pun intended, both feet, man, and really
Yep.
just get after it and say, what can I do, and how can I help facilitate that gap? So
Yep.
thank you, brother, for all you do, man. And I know there's a lot of good organizations out there, and I didn't know, with Tunnels to Towers, if you ever done anything with like the Simplify Fund, the Indie Fund, or
I
any of
have.
those other groups.
Yes, the Zephyr 5 Fund, which they changed their name to America's Fund now.
Right, right,
But yeah, they helped me on my pool house out here. I told them I was building a pool house, and they wanted to help. I was in I had been in their program from the hospital, but
yeah,
I've never used them. And then I had a buddy of mine. He used to be in a nonprofit world, and he was like, "Why don't you reach out to Zephyr 5, America's Fund?" So I reached out to them, and they were willing to help and do what I wanted. So they gave us some monetary help. So that was awesome. And I was going to
yeah,
say, adding on to the Tunnels to Towers thing, another great thing they started here recently, since we're not quote unquote we're in a war, kind of a conflict right now, but we're not in a
right,
war where people is getting mutilated, basically getting missing limbs or needing houses. What Tunnels to Towers started doing is they started buying these old apartment complexes or old hotels, or down in Tampa, they're building a whole community. So what they're doing is themselves are battling veteran homelessness throughout the country and not waiting on the government to do something. So they put these people up in these new homes or apartments or the
hmm
old hotels, and it gives them a living situation. And they also add in administration there to help them with if they want to go get a job, if they need doctor's appointments or any mental health stuff. So, and I got a lieutenant up at the sheriff's office. His daughter was looking at wanting to go work for Tunnels of Towers, so she reached out to me. I wrote her a recommendation, and she got the job. She's been there a couple of years, but we actually just a couple of weeks ago got to do a Charlotte location where they bought an old hotel, and they're going to be turning them into apartments for veterans. So they did the groundbreaking stuff. So that doing, that's why I say going around the country and seeing how different things work and seeing the different avenues of how people can be helped, and that makes it gratifying, and it makes it well worth it. Even my situation, I always tell people it's the best thing ever happened to me. It's
Right.
gave me stuff I've never would have been able to do in life, uh, different perspective of, you know, kind of being more grateful for things of, things people's always going through stuff. So it's given me a different perspective and gratitude for definitely after this situation though.
Well, you definitely have turned it into a purpose, Kevin.
Yeah.
And you're helping so many people, not only locally but nationally. And
Hmm.
you know, some people may assume, like, since you had such a catastrophic injury, that you're no longer able to get outdoors and enjoy things. What's some of your experiences like in the outdoors? Did you get back to hunting and fishing in South Carolina, or?
Yeah. I know I was telling you, before we started, I live out here in the country and got 20 acres or whatnot. So heck, I'm able to just walk out on the back door and shoot my guns if I want to. But
Right.
so I'm in, I got, in another nonprofit world, I got involved with, it's called Helicopters for Heroes. They're out of
Yeah.
Texas. And what their mission was, heck, I probably did my first one probably 8 years ago or so now. So the highlight of it is you get to fly around in helicopters and shoot pigs down in South Dallas, Texas. So I mean, obviously
Yes,
that's
sir.
awesome. But I actually got asked to be an ambassador a couple of years ago with them, and what the focus is they reach out to other nonprofits. It's usually two, and they bring in their people, and it's just a get them out there, get them around other veterans, get them out around like-minded people of hunting, shooting guns like you used to in the military. So we go down there and do that down in Texas. But even here locally, I mean, I got deer and turkey everywhere. But I really enjoyed doing those kind of trips. Obviously, who wouldn't like to shoot hogs out of helicopters? But
Right.
you know, but just being down there, meeting different folks, even sometimes I was able to bring a couple of years ago, have one of my buddies who got injured after I did. He was a double amputee out of Cincinnati, bring him down there. So it's a real cool experience, and made some relationships over the years with those people. So doing stuff like that is really cool to see. And I've been on a hunt down in Florida one time where this guy, he was paralyzed, and he hadn't been hunting since his accident, which had been like 15, 20 years. So being able to be attached to something like that and seeing the excitement on him, and just being able to get out there in a deer stand or a ground blind and be able to hunt, or if you don't want to kill anything, sometimes it's well worth it too, just to get a peace of mind.
Right.
Yeah.
You bring up a lot of good points, man. It's not always about going out here and harvesting an animal or being involved in it. It's about getting out of your head and getting out of your home, and being
Yeah.
able to share, struggles and being able to talk about it. And I know Tunnels to Towers, it's not all just about the house or they do a lot of respite care stuff, and they're treating the whole family, and it's about even looking for PCA care. If guys they need assistance with that, and it's treating the whole family as a dynamic.
Yeah.
And you had some great points. It's about networking and
Yeah.
just introducing guys and girls to the help that's out there.
Hmm.
And that's what we want to do on this podcast is just raise awareness, guys. If you need help, here's some avenues. And you're doing a great job here for us in South Carolina. So thank you for all you do here. But man, nationally, dude, you're opening up a lot of opportunities. Is you got any new things that are in the works now that you're able to share with us? Or I know
Well,
I
here,
know you're all over the place, brother.
yeah, here in the past couple, it might have been like 2 years ago, I'd always heard about, see, I don't know if I'll tell you the quick story behind it, but Travis
Yeah.
Mills. he's a quad amputee. He's like one of five that ever even survived doing that. And I was actually in the hospital with Travis during that time. So Travis, he's not originally from Maine, but that's where his nonprofit headquarters is now. And he started a nonprofit, does really well. Wrote a book. I'm pretty sure it's New York best-selling. Does motivational speeches. He's went viral a couple times. Just he's a funny guy. It's great organization. But so they got a retreat basically up there, not too far from his actual house. And what they do is they have different categories. You got a family retreat uh, during all the time of the year. Obviously, summertime's the awesome part. They got a big lake. Go out there. We went last year during the summer. Got a big lake. Go out fishing or kayaking, tubing, whatever. And it's just a resort to reconnect with each other, meet new people, connect, and that's actually the spot I was telling you about. I getting a guy's house bought and remodeled out in San Diego. That's where I
Right.
met him at this past year. So when you make those connections and it opens other avenues, that's what makes it worth it. But they also do even more. If just a veteran, if they're having trouble, mental health, depression, they have I'm pretty sure it's called a my pathway or something that the veteran just goes up there for a couple of weeks and they do, training and they get them back on track and show them exercises. And they're doing really great on both aspects, the fun side of it and the mental health side of it too. But yeah, you know, seeing how willing people are to help and how caring
Yeah.
it is for, especially in today's world where you turn on the news. I don't watch it no more, but you turn on the news and everything's negative or some kind of conflict or whatever, politics or whatever it may be. But really, you get down in the meat and potatoes of it. Most of the time, people are willing to help each other, and people are still
Yes,
genuine
sir.
around the world. So you don't get to see that side of it on the social media or media side of it, but that's that's really how the world is, though.
Yeah.
Kevin, when we first started the podcast, you had mentioned about how helpful your wife is, and
Yeah.
in your recovery. She was your girlfriend at the time, and now you guys
Mhm.
have been married for quite a while and have a family together.
Yep.
But can you talk a little bit about family support and what that meant at the time of your injury and going forward in
Yeah.
your rehabilitation?
Yeah. I always get emotional when I talk to her because she really did save my life. Like, no doubt
Absolutely.
about it. And
Yeah.
my mom and dad, they had divorced when I was younger, but during my injury and stay, my mom and dad, they were by my side when I first got hurt. And my girlfriend, my wife now, she was up there. It was a blessing too because she was actually in nursing school at the time, so it made it a whole lot easier for me and her to be able to work together to get better. But so my dad ended up going back to work. Hannah had to go back to school. My mother would be up there with me, and then during the summer, Hannah would be out of school and she'd come stay with me. And then once I came home, we started our family. But yeah, having her obviously, and it's worked out. I mean, we technically still wasn't dating but months, and then I asked her to marry me because I'm sitting in a hospital bed and she's flying up back and forth up there, and I just the sacrifice she was making just for a quote unquote boyfriend. I mean, I'd be
Right.
stupid not to want to marry somebody like that. So not long after I got hurt, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. So we got married the following year before I retired. But that, and then coming back and our friend group, just being able to hang out like any normal person, hang out regularly, have people over here. I got a pool, so during the summertime we got a lot of people come over here and hang out, and it gives you that peace of mind, relaxing. And I'm telling you, I've always said, uh, people that get hurt like me versus somebody, if you walk in a room, you see me and another veteran, you probably gonna think I'm like the worst case ever in history. But a lot of times it's the other guy. It's the guy that
Yeah.
hadn't had, the support. His mental health ain't the greatest. He maybe had to watch somebody like me get hurt. and he don't know how to deal with it. That's, a lot of times that's where you veteran suicide type stuff comes from.
Yeah.
So having that support system to be like, hey, it's okay, or go, we need to go talk to somebody, get some help, or go outdoors, go hunting, go be around friends, whatever it may be. That's it's a different avenue than just being in your mind and letting the walls close in on you. So that's support is like number one thing.
That you bring up, man, that's a great point, dude. We don't need to isolate. Yeah,
Yeah.
right now there's too many ways to reach out to people, and we just need to be our brother's keeper. And
Mhm.
not to stay in their business, but at the same token, hey man, how are you doing today? And you know how it
Yeah.
is, man. You get around enough vets, they're going to give you the same generic answer, man, I'm good, or I'm great.
Yeah.
No, you're not. We can tell it, and you're not going to open up to it. But guys, man, we live in 26, man, and it's a time that we need to put that bravado on the shelf and just say, hey, what can I do to make sure we're getting these guys and girls out of their head? And
Yeah.
there's a ton of avenues out there. And man, you brought up so many good ones already. But are you seeing any new things on the horizon for like blue collar guys? And that's the reason why I'm bringing it up is me and Greg get bombarded with this all the time. It's like, what grants are out there for this, or how do we do
Yeah.
that? And we don't want to give the veterans a bad taste because these guys are serving, man. These guys are doing it and they're putting their lives on the line. Um,
Mhm.
but at the same token, man, it's difficult when we're looking for grants or what other services for blue collar guys. And I didn't know
Yeah.
if you've seen any new things out there where some of these veteran groups are branching out. Um,
And
I,
I hadn't necessarily. I don't. I know the only thing I ever heard of like grant stuff. I used to be involved in a business. Used to own a business. I had to get
yeah,
out of it for some insurance reasons, but I still help another buddy out. Do some managing and paperwork type stuff with him every now and again. But as far as the grant, only thing I've ever heard of, that you're supposed to get, if you're a veteran or a woman or a minority, you're supposed to get these
right.
cuts, or you're supposed to be, I don't know if you're supposed to get seniority when you're choosing jobs, but it's supposed to help you. But I had a buddy of mine, he was a gunny sergeant in the Marine. He owns his business, and he said he did all the paperwork, and he's never actually ever seen any recourse of it doing all that. He said it was more headache than it was worth. So as far
Mhm.
as nonprofit, hadn't really ever heard of any, besides, but talking about grants, that's one of them. That's like a government grant type deal, but just you got in any world, any business world, you also got people that's going to take advantage of things, and people are
Yeah.
going to screw you over. So I mean, you never know. You got to be this business cutthroat world, and things are high as crap nowadays. So everybody's trying to make a
Oh,
living, whatever it may be.
yeah.
We definitely have to stay open to asking for help and finding the right organizations that are
Yeah,
willing to work with you for sure. And I just want to tell you, thank you for explaining, your family and your wife
yeah,
and that support system because you're right. A lot of people can look at, quadriplegics or amputees and think we have the worst case
yeah,
scenario. And,
hmm,
physically, maybe that's true, but because we have such great wives and such great families and
yeah,
support systems, I've always felt lucky to have, the best wife in the world and the best
yeah,
family that cared for me and got me through the darkest of dark. And I'm sure you went through that, yourself, Kevin, that you felt lucky and blessed to have the family and your wife around you. And maybe it wasn't as dark or as bleak as it could have been if you didn't have
yeah,
those folks in your life.
yeah, definitely. That definitely helps, and that's kind of goes back to what I was telling you about that guy that I was helping with. He, you know, somebody that wasn't injured but had to watch others get injured, or jump in there
Right.
and save them, or whatever it may be. And when you turn it over to the nonprofit world, they just might not feel like they're worthy, and they're not the worst injured, or somebody else deserves it more. And that's not always the case. Yeah, you do got people that abuse the system. That's with anything, but a lot of those guys, they just feel like nothing's out there for them. That everything is it's for somebody else, or somebody else needs it more than I do, and
Great.
that's just a running into a black hole if you think like that.
Yeah, I understand it, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's trying to get these guys to say, "Man, you are worthy,"
Yeah,
and not everybody was hurt in combat, or not everybody was was doing this, but you were doing your job, you know,
hmm
um, and we see it on the veteran side, where when I went in, it was during Desert Storm, but then we had a big long gap where there was no combat things going on, and so you had a lot of Marines that were really upset and saying, I signed on to do X, Y, Z. But
yeah,
brother, we can't depict when we're going to serve and how we're going to serve.
Mhm.
You signed a line that said, "Send me however, wherever," and if
yeah,
you honorably serve, what difference does it make? Um,
yeah,
and that's the thing we're trying to do too is not bash on each other and just saying, "Hey guys, whether you got a car or whether you got Purple Heart or whether you got this and that, your service means something."
yeah.
And so
I
I,
mean,
I want these guys to understand, it's not always about how you got hurt or didn't get hurt. It's about
mhm.
continuing to serve and being willing to put your meat in the fire, if you will.
Yeah, it ain't. It's not their job to do the due diligence. The nonprofit and the administration of whoever it is, they're going to do their due diligence of,
Sure.
you know, seeing their DD 214 is the easiest way to
Right.
do it,
Right.
and make sure everything was honorable and they did what they did, and no, like you said, it's not everybody was in combat that needs help, and not everybody was you know got blew up or got shot, or not everybody got a Purple Heart.
Right.
So there's different variants of it, and everybody needs help. Honestly, I mean, even outside the veteran community, everybody needs help.
Right.
Yep. Kevin, when you're on these retreats and talking with
Mhm.
people throughout the country, um, what type of like gear and equipment are you using
Yeah,
yourself and that you're kind of recommending? And what do you wish that the outdoor industry, kind of knew about people with disabilities trying to get back out there?
yeah. So for me, you know, I'm blessed enough to be pretty able. Like I'm pretty fit. I'm strong. I use my manual chair. I don't want to go to a electric chair until I have to. I
Right.
just don't. I don't want to get reliant on something that it has cost me. I got a torn rotator cuff that I just keep putting shots in. But other than
Right.
that, man, I'm a go guy. I'm not. I can't. I just can't sit around. So I use my manual chair. I in the past I have got an attachment for a smart drive. Smart drive is an independent wheel that clicks on the back of your chair, and you have like a some of them's got toggle switches, some of them's got press buttons that you can set like a cruise control basically on it, and those are really good. And then I had how did I get hooked up with? Oh, so I went a couple years ago. I went and got invited with a buddy of mine. He runs a nonprofit that takes veterans back to Normandy and Vietnam. So we
Yeah.
went to
Yeah.
Normandy for the 80th celebration. Well,
Yeah, that
in
was
our
awesome, dude.
yeah, it was in our group was a Marine Medal of Honor recipient. He's Colonel Barney Barnum. Well, he's on the board for a nonprofit called SEGS for Vets,
Mhm.
like Segway. So back then, Segway made a wheelchair, and it kind of reminds you of how the kids use the little hoverboard things, and
Yeah.
it's just got two wheels on it. It's basically a Segway. They just cut the stand up part out, put a seat on it, and those things get around awesome. Like I used to have a track chair. The
Yeah.
track chair is pretty good. They're slow. They are slow and
Yeah. Yep.
bulky, but the Segway chair is awesome. It is hard to drive though, like as far
Mhm.
as if you're not really able bodied to do it. But that chair, I got to do my first, real run of it. They sent me some deflated tires basically, and we took it down to Florida this past year, and that thing cut through the sand like it was butter. So I mean, those things are really awesome. Segway actually, I'm pretty sure they went bankrupt. So this nonprofit bought like a bunch of these chairs, and they're trying to patent their own chair, but
Mhm.
they're selective on the veterans they've been given. But something like that. That I've been blessed of getting connected with some nonprofits over the years of getting that. Initially, it was that track chair, and don't get me wrong, they are great, especially if you got cleared pathways or whatnot, and get around pretty good outside. But as far as regular travel, like when we went to Maine, I get push myself around the airport and able to everything obviously is accessible up there and stuff. So I mean, we it's I try to get around best I can by myself.
Yeah.
Right now and strong enough to do so. I know there'll be a day that I'm not able to, and my wife she don't weigh but like 100 pounds, so she ain't be able to lift me. So I'm I'm gonna I'm gonna try to stay. It kind of keeps me in shape too. So I
Yeah.
like that.
Definitely. You mentioned Normandy, and I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to go over there in the
Yep.
late 80s and actually, see the invasion beaches and the
Yep.
memorials and things. And it's just amazing what they've done to honor people of World
Yeah.
War II. If anyone ever has an opportunity to go and see that, it is an amazing, amazing sight.
Yeah, my buddy, I met him. It was actually the same weekend I was telling you about. I got hooked up with Tunnels of Towers. That same weekend, I ended up hitting it off with a guy. His name's Timothy Davis. He's originally out of Australia, but he started this nonprofit. It's called the Greatest Generations Foundation. Um, back in the day, he had a couple War World War One guys, and they
Yeah.
went back, to Germany and all that. And then he had a bunch of World War II guys he was taking back to Normandy every year. So the quick story is that there's a house in the middle of I think it's St. Mary Glees, and I mean this is an old village, and there was a house, and the veterans kept telling him this used to be a Nazi headquarters. So, and then at the time it came up for sale, and he ended up buying it. And what they did, they went in there, jerked all the wallpaper off, and behind it was all these moral, graffiti pictures that the Nazi had drew on the walls. So it was the Nazi headquarters camp. He
Wow.
remodeled it, made it wheelchair accessible, got an elevator in it, got, multiple bedrooms, a courtyard right in the middle of the town. So they were before COVID, they were doing like 30 trips a year. But he's
Wow.
also here in the recent years has started taking back guys to Vietnam and doing those trips. So I'm actually an ambassador with him. But yeah, that trip it was the 80th celebration. It was technically probably the last big celebration since those guys are like probably 100 years old now. But
Yeah.
it was incredible, incredible. I got to take my buddy I was telling you about that got hurt right after me out of Cincinnati, Brett. He's a double amputee. I got to let him tag along with us. Flew over there and they France, besides Paris is kind of like New York. Like I ain't never been to Paris, but they people want to be a-holes, I think. But
Right.
out in the countryside, they treated those veterans like celebrities. I mean, you get out the car and they'll just
Yes, sir.
swarm them, want pictures and tell them stories. I mean, it was incredible to see, and that was by far the best trip I've ever taken, and that's probably will never be top. Being able to see that and got to
Right.
be there with a Normandy beach guy and got to be there. Steve, he's out of Baltimore actually, and yeah, just going to the spot where he got shot in the neck and got wounded. So and that was an amazing trip.
Absolutely. Man, you bring up so much awareness, dude. It's mind blowing. And I thank you for all your time today and just all the stuff that you put into it. But man,
Yeah,
if you had somebody that was new that was seeking help, what would you suggest to them about, where to get started and how to go?
yeah. You know obviously the quick answer is starting with your local VA rep or VA place or finding a nonprofit. Like for me and you, Mike, our
Yeah.
probably best avenue is Upstate Warrior Solution. They're really good in the community here locally. Um, but even on national levels, I mean, just look up veteran. You know, there's a lot of veteran organizations out there that's willing to help on different avenues. Some of them are they have different ways of their therapy. Like like the one out in Texas, their way of therapy is getting guys back out there shooting guns out of helicopters. Some of them are out, doing other things, wanting to bring a family in for a retreat like Travis Mills and them. So I mean,
Right.
you just got to find which one that you're interested in, and a lot of them are willing to help. I mean, it's usually just easy as just putting the application in and applying, and you know going to get accepted. That's kind of it sounds. And for me, like I realize that I'm grateful and that I've probably got more avenues than most, uh,
Right.
given the situation. But I'm also willing to put my story and myself out there too. So it kind of goes
Exactly.
hand in hand of,
It does.
hey, I tell my story here locally and then nationally too. So, if you're willing to speak on it and don't be embarrassed about it, it it'll take you a long way than secluding yourself and feeling like you're not worthy.
And Kevin, you brought up two really good points. The willingness to reach out and ask for help,
Mhm.
and also that not everybody wants to shoot hogs out of a helicopter.
Yep.
I mean, I
Yep.
I can't believe somebody would not want to do that.
Right.
But some people want a calmer family retreat, a
Mhm.
place to go with the family,
Yep.
or a place to go for some respite, or to get themselves squared away again. So there's a lot of avenues out there that people can explore, but they have to reach out and ask for help. And
Yep.
I think that's one of the things that Mike and I enjoy about our podcast is we get to talk with guys like you and some women that have real life experience on both sides of the fence, asking for help and then offering help
Yeah.
after you've volunteered and received it. So
Yeah.
big points that you brought up there.
Yeah. And those family treats are great. Like, especially for other people's kids or my kids when they were younger. I mean, they're kind of used to it now, but seeing that there's other guys or women like their dad, they might be missing an arm or leg. No,
Yeah.
if we go up there to Travis Mills, I mean, he's missing all four of his limbs. My kids had never seen that, but they do with Travis, and for them, it's not a shock anymore. They're used to it. For a regular kid that ain't never been around, it'd be a shock to them, or they'd be curious. But it it shows that those kids see that, hey, there's other people like my dad or my mom or
Mhm.
worse than physically. You know what it is that everybody's kind of comes to a different background and got different injuries. That doesn't make them lesser or more, but it just gives that gives that representation of for each everybody. Though.
Right. Man, and that's a great point too. Kids are resilient and they want to be
Mhm.
around other things and
Yeah,
sometimes they don't understand it, but then when they're opened up to it, they get to branch out. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, how did your girls take being around you, when you were newly injured or, I know they grew up with it.
yeah,
My daughter was 18 months old when I got hurt, so she kind of same thing,
yeah,
she was thrown into that and I think it makes them a more well-rounded individual.
yeah.
Greg, and talking about organizations and all that, I'm going over to the Brewington place pretty soon. I'm gonna do some belly flops off that
There you go.
out into the
There you
swimming
go.
pool, man, and
Mhm.
wait on Kevin to do some cooking.
Oh yeah. Now, but when I first got injured, obviously, I mean, still now it don't bother me now, but I come home missing both legs or whatever, and back then I had my arm in a sling and brace, so
Yeah,
all the kids stare at you or whatever, and it kind of took some getting used to at first. Now, I mean, I don't really care. I'll just mess with them now, but yeah, that's the thing. Somebody like my kids, they've seen, somebody missing legs, missing arms,
yeah,
burnt 80% of their body, on their face. So, I mean, they've seen a lot more of injury type stuff like that, where it ain't really a shot to them, or you know, that guy Rick Yardish, he he had like 60% burns or something on his body.
yeah,
So he was one in a home beat I got, but he got somebody like that. I mean, he's the one that got me hooked up with tunnels of towers. I mean, so he was willing to put himself out there, tell his story. He might, you know, he looks disfigured and he's got burns and stuff, but He's a great guy. Still got his mind. Still, charismatic. He's a and I enjoy talking to him. He's funny to be around, and he's he's just not a he's not he don't have a give up attitude, and that's really what it
Right.
takes, and be
Yep.
resilient. Because to me, and you've seen it along the way, is there's it don't I might be missing my legs, or whatever. You might be in a wheelchair, but there's always somebody worse, and there's always and the worst of the worst is in the ground. So I mean, you're still above ground and still able to
Right.
do stuff and still able to get out. So that's a win right there, just starting off.
Attitude is everything, Kevin. And
Yeah.
when you start seeing what's available in this country and the people
Mhm.
that you can connect with, and your friend helped you, and you've helped countless people,
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
and it's just a joy to see that out of tragedy, all
Yep.
the good that can happen.
Yep. You're right. Yep.
Man, you brought up something too that we've got to learn to accept our own injuries.
Mhm.
And I had a nasty attitude when I first got hurt. I went from it was a vanity point, man, and it was not a knock on the people that were looking at me. It was me.
Mhm.
Here I am. I was 23 years old, and you went from being able-bodied one instant to disabled on the other, and you would have somebody look at you, and it was like I didn't accept my own injury at first. It was, what are you
Yep.
staring at? And then, seeing that it's not a limitation. Matter
Yep.
of fact, it's a booster in that, yeah, we're taking something that we can't necessarily change. But
Mhm.
what you said earlier, God gave me a standpoint that I'm able to do things I never thought I would be able to do, and it came out of that tragedy.
Mhm. You're right.
Man,
I
it's
got
it, it's a beautiful
yeah.
thing.
Yes, I got one of my favorite sayings I seen a few years back is everybody's got a sad story. You either use it as an excuse or use it as motivation. And
Right.
that's true. That's true in anybody. I mean, people without injury, they lost their mom or dad when they was little, or
Yep.
come from a broken home. Parents might have been on drugs. They might have been on drugs at one time. Stuff like that. I mean, everybody's dealing with something, but
Yes.
you got to come out of it. Basically, you got to pick yourself up and just keep on going one day at a time.
Right.
Kevin, the hour goes by so quick on these podcasts, and we
Yeah,
really hope
yeah,
that we could have you back on again because there's so
yeah,
much to discuss. But man, thank you for taking the time out of your day. Mike,
yeah.
is there anything else that you guys would want to end the podcast with?
Man, it gets back to it. Kevin, man, I truly appreciate the man you are and how you continue to pick up, press forward, man, and you're inspiring from the front. Man, it shows about your leadership and character. Dude, I can't thank you enough for all that you're doing nationally, just trying to introduce guys and girls to the avenues that are out there. And, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, is there any way that they can get in touch with you? Or,
Yeah,
I know you,
I got a Facebook that's public anyway. So I mean, you can go on there
yeah,
and see family pictures. I even got like you was alluding to at the beginning. I got a video of me get picked up from the ground of my injuries. So I mean, I've you know my story's been around for quite a few years, but
yeah,
yeah, just I put my stuff on there on Facebook, and if you need help, you reach out to me, and be glad to help and as much as I can. That's my
yeah.
thing. I try to help you as much as I can.
Well, brother, man, I can't thank you enough for all you do. Let's continue to push forward each and every day, man, and thank you
Sir.
again for your time and effort. You make sure you love on that family for us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. We'll get you back on again soon. But thank you everybody for listening today, and thank you Kevin and crew, and thank you all those that are in harm's way now.